President and GM of the Braves, Alex Anthopoulos, with us now on the Hobson and Hobson Newsmaker line. Alex, thanks for coming on.
Glad to be on, guys.
Well, you've always said it. When things are going bad, you prefer to show your face a little bit more, and lo and behold, we find ourselves in that situation. When you look at the gut punch after gut punch after gut punch late in games, do you fear it's more psychological now as these games are late for your team?
I don't know. I mean, everything's on the table, right? When it comes to that, look, whether it's obviously fans, people watching on TV, people at the ballpark, the coaches, the manager, the GM, players. Lose games late, it's tough, and we've had some tough ones, especially in this last week. The 2 in Philly, the one last night. You look back and you feel like those are games you should win, and you feel good about the guys that are out on the mound. Will Smith was 11 for 11 in saves, and not that he's had a 0 ERA the entire year, but he's been given the ball in the ninth inning to get the save. He was 11 for 11. It didn't work out that one game when we had 2 outs, and same thing. You got Chris Martin with a 2-run lead, and he's been so good for us. You feel good about that. Or even last night, he was 0-2 on all 3 hitters he faced. He was 0-2 on all of them. And again, just things didn't work out for us. So it's tough, no doubt. There's no other way to put it. And you don't have a choice but to grind through it, right? And continue to grind and continue to work and try to find solutions, whether that's outside the organization, try to make guys better internally. But yeah, of course, it's going through it is not something anybody wants to have to do.
Alex Anthopoulos with us, President and GM of the Braves, on the Hobson and Hobson Newsmaker line here on the Fan 680 and 93.7 FM.
Alex, that frustration turns to anger pretty quickly. If I would have told you that this team would not have a 7-3 10-game stretch as you were breaking camp, what would you have said?
I guess it's just a stretch. I guess 7-3, 8-2, 6-4, whatever it is. Obviously coming out of spring training, we had a healthy spring. We obviously really felt good about the talent on the roster, especially the success we've had the last 3 years too. And look, we have a passionate fan base, passionate group of players, coaches, employees that work for the team. It's important to everybody, obviously, and we expect to win. We're accustomed to winning. When you're not, it's tough. And I don't want to make excuses. Everybody has challenges and injuries and things like that. Your job is to get through them. Find a way to get through them, find a way to win, all that kind of stuff. So, obviously, I think most people, us included, felt good about the club coming out of spring, felt good about the roster. And we had some nice stories early, guys like Noah and so on. That we're doing well, but look, we're obviously not playing to the ability that we have.
So I made a statement earlier today that I think the March narrative, this is an underachieving team. To not spend one day over 500 based upon what you did last year and what the expectations were, that would certainly, you'd look at the record and say it's underachieving. I actually thought of something last night. Maybe it's not underachieving. I'm 60-plus games into a season. Maybe this is actually what you are at this point. This is fluid. So which way am I supposed to? I'm not telling you to tell me how I should think, but am I off base now 60 games into the season where I say, oh, you know what? It's not as simple as just saying it's an underachieving team.
Well, yeah. So I don't know that I characterize it that way. Yeah. I guess it's, we have a lot of talent, obviously, and, no one players are going to go through peaks and valleys regardless, no matter what. But, in terms of, it'd be one thing if I'm painting a picture of our run differential is really strong. We've just had some bad luck and, we're going to turn this around. We have a lot of good indicators, things like that. Our record with our run differential, we're kind of in line, maybe a win or 2 off. Maybe we'd be 2 under instead of 4, something like that. But we've played the way we've played. It's reflected in the wins and losses. That's been accurate. So, that's certainly accurate there. And whether it's, obviously the roster's not, what we're running out there every night was not what we banked on coming out of spring training. That's clearly obvious. But at the same time, you're going to have that over the course of the season. You're not going to go with 26 guys the entire way regardless, and you're going to have other players. So, yeah, I don't know that I mean using that word specifically. I guess it just, for me, is that we have a lot of really talented players. We have a lot of really good players, guys that had fantastic years last year and the year before that and the year before that. And they're still those same talented players, but, they're not having the same years. That's not for lack of effort or loss of talent or things like that. I mean, it's, and that's not to say that they won't get back to that level or get hot again. That's why you go through the 6 months and 162 games. But, there's no doubt we're well into the year now, and, things have not gone as well the way that we would have hoped.
And hindsight's always 20/20, but so far, do you feel like this team may have overpaid for a couple of guys in Drew Smyly and Charlie Morton?
You know what? There's no doubt. Look, those were two guys that we wanted, that we really believed in. Smyly, you look at his stuff at the end of the year with the Giants and the strikeout rate. His velocity's down from what it was at the end of last year. He had the forearm issue at the beginning of the year. We got through it, came back. No health issues right now. He's obviously working hard. He'll show flashes at times, the swing and miss stuff. I think Charlie's stuff has been fantastic. He just seems to have an inning from time to time, but the stuff is electric to me. I mean, we're seeing good velo, good spin on the curveball, but he has an inning each game. It seems like it'll get away from him, and that'll certainly impact him as well. So, to me, when you're talking about salaries and things like that, you're really looking at, what you're hoping the performance is going to be and how guys are going to play. So, I think almost everybody on this team right now would tell you, hey, I think I'm capable of more. I think I can do better. And that's not for, again, lack of work ethic, effort, things like that. It hasn't obviously materialized. But, in my mind, at least, and certainly knowing the talent that we have a good group of players. There was a reason there was expectations with this club. And, it hasn't come through in the first 60-plus games.
Yeah, and if you have handfuls of guys who aren't playing to the contract, playing below that number, what the expectation was, then all of a sudden you can find yourself not finding easy wins anywhere. And that's the other thing. There just have not been easy wins. You haven't kicked the crap out of people and just left them in the wake. I want to ask you about Freddie Freeman, because it's a Freddie Freeman thing. Let's just call it's a Freddie Freeman thing. Have you talk to Freddie at all? And I don't mean about contracts, and I don't mean about Liberty Media, and I don't mean about his agent, I don't mean about his numbers. Have you talked to Freddie about what we perceive this to be, what the hell is going on around here with Freddie Freeman thing?
Yeah, I mean, Freddie came off, as we know, an MVP year, 1,100-plus OPS, but even prior to that, Freddie's been elite every single year of his career, every single year, which is incredibly hard to do, to be consistent like that every single year with Gold Glove defense and durable and everything else. So I know that the surface numbers with Freddie, they're good for good players. Freddie set the bar so high because he's an elite player, one of the best players in the game, reflected in him winning the MVP award. I think if you look under the hood with Freddie and some of the underlying numbers and so on, I know it's not showing itself on the field right now in terms of just the pure stats. You look at batting average and things like that, but he's still doing a lot of things really well. His decision-making is really good. He's hitting the ball hard. I know Snitz talked about it in some of his post-game media, some of the line drives and the hard hit balls and things like that are getting caught.
But, Alex, have you talked to him about this? So at least, if nothing else.
He's aware of it. Yeah, he's
no. I swear to you, I'm not asking that. I'm asking, have you talked to him? So again, as a guy, as a man, not about contracts, not about anything, but just so.
But there isn't. But Chris, this is what I'm saying. There isn't anything going on with him, is what I'm saying. Freddie Freeman, the numbers are not there right now in terms of average and things like that. But he's doing everything really well, and things aren't just falling. And I believe it's the same thing I remember. That was 6 weeks into the season. 6 weeks into the season, 7 weeks into the season, people were talking about Josh Donaldson, this and that. The underlying numbers were really, really good. We felt like the numbers at the end of the year were going to be there. So I wouldn't tell Freddie Freeman to change a thing with how he's swinging the bat. Do not change a thing. Do exactly what you're doing. I know it's not showing itself right now on the field. He knows that. He's been told that. We've seen him. I've seen him in the clubhouse and so on. But in Freddie Freeman, again, there's a lot of good things happening underneath the hood. And again, I know people want the results to show immediately, and balls smoke to the wall, smoke to the gap, a great play, and so on. Yeah, that's going to lower his batting average, but that's still a well-hit ball. He's grinding at bats, working counts. He looks good at the plate. Just some of the balls are not falling in. He's had some bad luck and so on. So, in my view, I wouldn't tell Freddie to change a thing.
But the sense is publicly he has stated no conversations taken place about the contract. And I know you're not going to negotiate, especially through the radio with us, but do you find that he's distracted by that at all? And I guess what Chris is asking, don't want to speak for Chris either, do you find that maybe that is something that's affecting him on the field as well?
I just want to know if you guys talk as men. Like, have you had, hey, it's business, Freddie. No numbers, Alex. I'm not talking about trying to open up a negotiation.
I know, but what is there? There's not. Freddie is playing great for me. He really is. He's playing good defense. Again, the numbers might not be showing itself, but he's in a good place. So there's no, hey, is there, like you said, what's going on? There is no what's going on in my mind. I don't agree with you. I respectfully don't agree with you. I don't have a what's Freddie Freeman to me is, right now, and we're sitting here in the middle of June, the stat line might show, slightly over 800 OPS. I would tell you our internal stuff would say he's in the nines. Mm-hmm. And if it was showing up on the scoreboard that it was in the nines, I'm probably not getting asked this, right? So I believe, and we'll certainly find out whether we talk a month from now or 2 months from now or whatever it is, that stat line will be closer to being in the nines where he's always been. And there isn't a conversation that needs to be had because he's been doing the same thing the entire year.
Okay, I'm not even talking about stats in baseball, so maybe I'm not wording this. Maybe I just have a different mentality. I think every once in a while in a building, you walk up to a guy, how you doing? Even if it's how the kids, even if it's just a conversation.
You do that with all the players. Sure.
Okay, because that to me goes a long way, I think, with guys. This is a business. We're all grown-ups. Everybody's got big boy pants on. Okay, that's what I'm asking. Do you feel good about your relationship with him? Do you feel good about, hey, we can have a...
Of course.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
But I don't want to single him out. I mean, look, I'll talk to guys, a few weeks ago, it was him and Dansby. We were talking about trades and adding to the team and doing things like that and getting their insight and input and things like that. Not that they're making decisions, but we're sitting around in the food room and we're having a conversation and we're talking about, things that we can add and things like that and so on. I think there's just been so much of a focus on Freddie's performance because he set the bar so high. And I understand the numbers are what they are. The home runs are obviously fantastic. And I think people focus on the batting average and say, what's wrong? He's not performing at the level. And yes, on the surface, it looks that way. And I remember being asked that about Josh Donaldson 6 weeks into the year. But a lot of the underlying stuff is he's still doing a lot of things really well, and it should in time show itself.
And again, hindsight's always 20/20. I'll preface it with this again, but you see what Mark Melancon is doing out west. Any regret that he's not a part of this bullpen right now?
Look, Mark's having a great year. Duvall, has had a great series or two against us. Darren O'Day was off to a nice start for New York. He got hurt, but his ERA was really good, and the little that he performed. So not to single him out specifically. Look, we walked away from a lot of players that had success with us last year. Flowers obviously, was part of that club as well. I don't want to leave him out, but we clearly walked away from a lot of players, not because we didn't like the players, not because we didn't want them back. We obviously made decisions in the off season. Obviously it starts with me to sign. Morton, Smiley, Josh Tomlin was an early sign, and Ozuna was our last free agent sign. And I think some of those guys signed after. I don't remember when Duvall signed exactly. It was a little later in the off season, but after Ozuna was the last one for us. We wanted that big middle of the order bat. That was certainly a priority for us to have someone hitting behind Freddie, and that was going to be a priority. And getting two guys in the rotation was absolutely going to be a priority for us to have some innings and to get through 6 months. So once we signed Ozuna, we were basically done signing players. So it doesn't mean we didn't continue to try to explore things, but I could tell you, all the players that we had here really enjoyed being here, and all of them, not just Mark, Darren. Obviously, Shane Green did come back in the end. It took a while. But I could tell you all those, Adam Duvall, they all wanted to stay. They all wanted to come back. We allocated our funds the way that we did. And I'm not surprised to see those guys have success because they had success with us. They were good teammates. They were good guys, and would have loved to have kept all of them.
You mentioned in the Jeff Schultz article that there is some money at the trade deadline if necessary. Conscious decision to keep it for then, as opposed to, could you have pushed whatever the budget was to sign one or two of those guys back that we just talked about? Or was there literally this idea that if we do that, I have nothing at the trade deadline? Is that a philosophy? And do you think maybe that has to be revisited if it is a philosophy?
Yeah, so there wasn't any of that. No, I think, in the off season, we didn't know what the season was going to bring. So we try to set budgets and so on at the time in the off season. And now the landscape has changed significantly from the off season to now. Even when we started the year at 25%, we were hoping eventually to get to 100. We had no idea when that was going to happen, but that obviously ramped up sooner than we all expected, which is great for the club. So that's now opened things up for us. So the question I was asked was, if you're in a position, can you add at the trade deadline? And yes, we can, because things have changed quite a bit today from what they were in the offseason. Come November at this time, there was a lot of uncertainty.
You stated that, and I know this for a fact, you are not allowed to talk about Marcell Ozuna. So I'm starting with that. One of the things, though, that the idea of the money, are there fail-safes in these contracts? Are there ways that even with guaranteed contracts, do you have a way that you envision that if things go kaflooey, completely off a rail, that you actually will get money back, or is baseball not built that way?
Yeah, you know what? I think anything that's even alluding to, I was told very clearly by MLB, anything involving, and I basically said, I'm going to, I don't want to dodge any questions. I want to be accountable and be able to answer them. And I was told very clearly, you are not allowed to discuss a thing. It's a legal matter. And that's why I was explicitly put. And I understand you're kind of dancing around it, and I understand the question. And look, there'll certainly be a time, I believe, I'll be able to talk about it, and I'll be able to answer anything you have. But it was made extremely clear to me that it's not something I can discuss in any manner at all.
Okay. DEFCON 1, I think some people mistake it. They think DEFCON 5 is the worst-case scenario. Oh, my God, here come the missiles. But it's really DEFCON 1. Is there a DEFCON 1 situation for you where this team could actually be a seller at the trade deadline?
You know what? Obviously it's a hypothetical, and you're 6 weeks away from the trade deadline. So just like we're 10 weeks into it now, 6 weeks into it, who knows what else happens. Are we playing well? Are we on a hot streak? Are we not playing well? Have we had more injuries? So obviously you're always going to have to adjust when things occur. But right now our mindset is we want to continue to try to get better and win more games. So the focus in our energy is, how can we make the club better? How can we win more games? And, beyond that, we haven't thought about anything else. But obviously, once you get closer to the trade deadline, you just have that much more information.
Do you think have phones, making calls, taking calls, has that stuff kind of started in this 2021 season, maybe a little bit earlier than it has in the past? Or is that still a couple of weeks away? It's always going on. Even, we had conversations in May and even in April in spring training, you're having conversations, but there's very few teams that want to sell early. Even those clubs that are openly rebuilding, you rarely see deals happen. That even those obvious sellers, the clubs that are openly rebuilding and, they're going to be trading players and moving guys, you rarely see deals before the month of July. Occasionally the odd one here or there, but that doesn't mean you stop and you don't try, and you still try to get deals done and try to engage. So we've been doing that, but the likelihood based on past experiences and so on and the way things are right now, it's challenging to get anybody to make a move right now in June. So once you get into July, things start to open up a little bit more, just before the All-Star break. And then obviously right after the All-Star break, especially now that the draft will be during the break, things will be pretty aggressive.
Realizing you can't talk about Ozuna, I'll just say this and ask this. The way the team is constructed right now, do you think they can turn a corner and win?
Yeah. Because there's a lot of things. If you look at the ups, if you told me, and we can go through the entire roster and say what these guys have done and what these guys have done in the past, and can they get hot and can they do those things? Sure. Now, obviously that hasn't occurred 60-plus game into the year, but there's no doubt that there's a lot of talent on this club, and there's a lot of guys on this club that certainly could get hot. And you look at what some of the other clubs that are playing well have done, and you look at, even from our standpoint, the last 3 years, we've had guys go down in the rotation, guys go down in the bullpen, guys go down position player-wise, and you have some guys that emerge and step up and have great years. And that's normally when you make the playoffs. You have guys that are unexpected surprises that end up doing well.
I respect the fact that you think the clubhouse is the player's place and the coach's place. And I think you've been very transparent in that. But from what you gather, what you could see, what you feel, or what you're being told, atmosphere in the clubhouse, what are you hearing about? Because it's certainly easier to be upbeat when you're winning. 10 games over will fix everything, it seems. But what do you think, or what are you hearing about how that part of it is working right now?
Just like anything else. One, we have a good group of guys, right? So it starts with that. You have a good group of human beings, good group of individuals, and so on. You have that. So when you have that, you have a floor. No matter what, you have a floor. You have a good group of guys. Now, like anything, when you lose games, just you guys, Chris, you guys have both been in clubhouses. When you're winning, they turn the music on after the game. Everyone's excited. When you're losing, it's quiet, right? That's what happens. That's just the way it is in baseball. You're not normally playing music after a loss. So when you're losing more than you're winning, you're not going to have that. But in terms of the people and the individuals overall, I think it comes down to the people you have and knowing who they are. And we have a collection of good human beings, good guys. And you get on a roll, you get some momentum. Guys are upbeat and excited and things are going well. And then, if you lose and you're down there after you lose, it's just quiet, But in terms of consistency, work ethic, things like that, caring, all that kind of stuff, it's consistent with what it's always been from that standpoint.
I know that you can't think of it this way because you have to worry about this week, certainly other things that are going to happen with the organization before the trade deadline. But the math of it is, I think it's now 60-38 to get to 90 wins. Let's just use 90 as a barometer. When you have a team that hasn't been a day over 500, and then I say you have to go 22 over 500, it's a longer period of time, but it's still going 22 over 500. When you said to Nick, you think this group is capable of doing that, that will be a hell of a turn.
Oh, no. I didn't say – you didn't put a win total on me.
No. I'm saying when Nick asked you, can this group win as constructed, if the answer is yes, they're going to have to play at a level that this team hasn't played at yet.
Sure. Oh, no, look, there's no doubt. You're not – if the level that we're playing at is 4 games under 500. If we continue at that, you're not winning 4 games under 500, right? That goes without – I mean, that's stating the obvious. Right. So now what the win total ends up being in the NL East, I think most people feel this way. It could certainly change. I think a lot of people felt like the NL East was going to be one of the most challenging divisions in the game. And all 5 clubs, the Marlins had made the playoffs last year and it looked like they had improved. We certainly felt good about our club. And then you go through the Nationals, the Phillies, the Mets. And I don't know what the win total to win in the NL East is going to be this year. In the past, it's been, the 1 year we won it was 90 games. Then it was 97 games. Then I believe 93. I don't know that 90 is going to be the number this year for the NL East. It could be 85, 87, 86. I don't know, right? So the Mets are playing well, no doubt about it. But the NL West is stronger at this point in the year, and certainly the Cubs and the Brewers are getting hot too. So I don't know. At this point, it's certainly the NL East hasn't gone, I think, the way all of us would have expected. So I would have told you it would have been well over 90 wins at the start of the year to win the NL East. I can't say that today with the way it's gone the first.
Yeah, I only use 90 as a barometer.
Sure.
But the math is, I think 60-38 means that you've got to be not a tick better. You've got to be exceptionally better than this team has been for the
first. Well, and I guess I would say is just we won the floor since. In the last 3 years, going into the 4th year, has been 90 wins, and that was 2018. The division right now is not playing out the way that we thought, so I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that the winner of the NL East might be less than 90 wins. We don't know. There's still a lot of games left, but I think you guys would agree, too. It may not take 90 wins to win the NL East.
Well, it's been a challenging season, to say the least. Alex Anthopoulos, we always appreciate you coming on and answering all of the questions. This is really the first time we've talked to you under these circumstances, so we appreciate it.
No problem, guys. Glad to do it.
Alex Anthopoulos, President, GM of the Braves, with us on the Hobson and Hobson Newsmaker line.